This morning, the Associated Press just called the race as well in the last 10 minutes. You can see just how close it is. With 98% of precincts reporting, Johnson and Barnes are separated by about 33,000 votes. Johnson had a press conference scheduled for this morning where he's expected to declare victory, but he canceled that event. Early this morning, we heard from both Johnson and Barnes' camp.
Fortunately, it's still so close. And that's a little depressing, isn't it? That lies can be that effective. And if you ever wonder, quite honestly, why more good people don't run for office, I would just recommend people take a look at the Wisconsin U.S. Senate race in the year 2022, and you just might get that answer.
You can see that Barnes didn't take the stage, instead opting to have the VP of the Democratic Party send supporters home for the night. Barnes is scheduled to speak any minute now. You're looking live at that stage as they're getting ready to hear from Mandela Barnes. We'll go to that speech as soon as he takes the stage, so please stay with us. Another big race call this morning is the 3rd Congressional District. The Associated Press called the race for Derek Van Orden in the last couple of hours. 94% of the votes are in, and Van Orden has a 4 percentage lead over Brad Pfaff. Van Orden declared victory last night before the AP called the race. Here's what he had to say.
I will not give up the values that the people of the 3rd District of Wisconsin understand that I hold and share with them, and that's why they voted me into office.
This is a win for Republicans who flipped this congressional seat. Longtime Representative Ron Kind held the district for Democrats for the last 25 years. Van Orden ran unsuccessfully against him in 2020. And late this morning, the AP called one of the big statewide races. Josh Kaul gets another 4 years as Attorney General. Kaul celebrated his victory with a short speech outside the state capitol this morning, and Will Keneally was there. Will?
That's right. So Kaul spoke for about 10 minutes, but he mentioned themes like unity and moving forward several times. Unofficial results have the Attorney General beating challenger Eric Toney by about 1.5 points. Toney conceded the race last night before the AP called it. Josh Kaul says that the two candidates had a good campaign and thanked Toney for running on issues. Kaul believes that abortion rights drove a lot of people to turn out to vote yesterday.
An election that is so unusual historically, where the president's party wins key races like the governor's race and the AG's race, to me that sends a sign that voters care about that issue and that they want reproductive freedom restored in Wisconsin.
As for Kaul's priorities, now that he has another 4 years to work on them, he wants to see bipartisan legislation that provides more state funding to towns and cities for things like law enforcement and schools. Kaul's pointed to the state's $4 billion budget surplus, saying that now is the time to invest in communities. He added that he wants to see Wisconsin be a leader in showing the nation how we can come together after years of attacks on our democracy.
And you covered this quite extensively, in fact, for part of the debate.
Correct, yeah.
And highly contested.
Highly contested, but the thing that struck me most is how civil they kept it. It was very much, like Kaul says there, a campaign on the issues.
It's good to see.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and in the governor's race, one of the few races called late last night, Tony Evers is officially reelected for a second term. The AP called that race right around 1 o'clock this morning. Evers took about 51% of the vote, with Republican challenger Tim Michels a few points behind.
Tonight, we prove that there is so much we can do when we work together, when we do the right thing, and when we're willing to fight for the future that we want for our kids and our state. And we're just getting started, folks.
Tim Michels took to the stage around 12:30 this morning to say he had just called Governor Evers to concede. His speech was brief.
I don't know what we would have done differently. It was a very spirited effort. I loved going everywhere from Superior to Kenosha, Sheboygan to La Crosse. We campaigned in bars and bowling alleys and supper clubs, football games, everywhere, and the enthusiasm was just off the charts. But it wasn't our night tonight, and I thank everybody for all of your support. God bless.
And as we wait for Mandela Barnes to give his speech here, join us to talk about what we're looking at next.
Yeah, what is next?
Yeah, and so I think the big thing that we're waiting on here is to see what Barnes decides to do, whether he decides to concede in the race or he still possibly might have the chance to do a recount here. So I think they're kind of over the night essentially weighing their options to see where they want to take the next steps here.
And in the assembly, did the Republicans get a supermajority?
No, they needed a pretty big margin. They needed about 5 seats to make that supermajority. They gained a couple of seats, but they did not get that 5-seat threshold.
But they did get it in the Senate.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
haven't double-checked on that
Okay.
race, but yes.
All right. Throughout the day yesterday, voters brought us a few questions they had about the polls. Questions we wanted to make sure we fact-checked. A video clip from Fox News posted to Twitter accuses a Madison poll worker of rigging ballots on live television. That's on the left side of your screen right now. The tweet shows a poll worker making markings on a series of ballots during live coverage on Fox News. We asked the Dane County clerk what the poll worker was doing, and Scott McDonald told us it's just a normal processing of ballots. The poll worker was marking the ballots to indicate which ward it was cast in, and that's a normal procedure. Workers are expected to circle the ward number and initial it for verification purposes. And since last night, tens of thousands of you have relied on Channel 3000 for all of your election results, and those results are still trickling in. Keep checking that site for the latest numbers and real-time context and updates.
A reminder here to answer your questions about the election 2022 and beyond, be sure to download our Channel 3000 News app to stay up to date on the latest election headlines and local news.
Let's get back to some other election headlines. We'll get to election headlines in a minute as we wait for Mandela Barnes to speak in Milwaukee. First, let's go over to the Weather Center. Julian Seawright has a look at your first forecast, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's been a cloudy start throughout much of our Wednesday, but the clouds are starting to break up a bit here in southern Wisconsin, especially for Madison. As we're taking a look at our visible cloud track, we can see the areas just between Dubuque and going towards Madison. The cloud cover is starting to dissipate as we continue throughout the rest of the start of our afternoons. We are looking for our skies to open up for us just a bit, bringing in a bit of sunshine. So looking ahead, this is what we're going to see for us. Temperatures will rise into about the mid-60s. We are looking for our skies to open up. Plenty of sunshine by the time we get into the back end of our afternoon. Heading into tonight, it's going to start out mostly clear, but we will start to see some cloud cover building in later into our night as well. Not a lot in terms of precipitation, but our friends into the north are looking at a couple of showers on our radar. But for us, we're going to stay dry throughout the course of the day, especially heading into tonight. But cloud cover once again will build as temperatures will be into the upper 50s for Dane County and for much of southern Wisconsin. We are looking for an unseasonably mild night as we're going to be diving into the lower 60s and even the upper 50s. Here's a look at what we're going to be watching for. We have a severe weather threat going into tomorrow. We'll talk about the details of this alert day in just a few moments. Until then, back to you guys.
All right, Julian, thank you. There's more to come on News 3 now at noon, and we'll take a break now. Here's a live look at the scene in Milwaukee as we wait for Mandela Barnes to speak to his supporters. We'll be right back.
I discussed this with my son, and he really inspired me to make me realize that all that does is gives us the mission going forward to really do a lot more political education when there's not someone so beloved and so worthy on the ballot as Mandela Barnes. That's right. You know, I'm trying to figure out how much money I spent answering all those texts. But without checking with my accountant, I know it wasn't anywhere close to $144 million. But there's something very, very important about this race. 27,000 votes after multi-millions of dollars of spending, of money from big pharma and from the fossil fuel industry and from God knows where, since it's all dark money. And our candidate said, I'm going to get elected and I'm going to be unbought and unbossed. Now that's the legacy of this campaign. Because I'm not going to spend all the time talking about how awful our re-elected senator is. But I just want to say that, I'll say what I said last night to all of you, and I'll repeat it. When Mandela Barnes came to me and asked me if I would support him, I thought of all the reasons that I just shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, oughtn't, and shouldn't be doing it. But by the time he bought me the second bottle of wine to my house, which my daughter determined was very good, bargained at $15 a bottle, I realized that there was no way that I could just lay my values down. Lay my values down for political expediency. To be putting my finger in the air and waving. And you know what? I am so glad, knowing who I know right this moment, that I did what I did. Before I turn this over to Mandela, and I hope that I'm not stealing his talking points, because I am so grateful. We proved that once again we could resurrect that very, very important, diverse coalition of people to move, to work against the powers to be. We've demonstrated that coalition politics has a future in the way we govern. And let's not forget that, y'all. This ain't the end. This is the beginning. Mandela Barnes is our local hometown hero. He's 35 years old. And I'm telling you, he ain't even got started yet. Ladies and gentlemen, our friend, our favorite son, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
I want to say thank you so much, Congresswoman Moore, for being there since day one. And I want to thank everybody else for taking the time to come out this afternoon after such a long evening. Now, obviously, this is not the speech that I wanted to give, but I simply cannot thank you all enough for being there with me every step of the way. Now, I had a chance to look right now at the people who've been with me on this campaign through the highs and the lows, throughout a long, hard-fought primary that a lot of people didn't think we were going to come out of. You know, we were outspent in the primary, but we still found a way by bringing people together, building that broad, diverse coalition that the Congresswoman talked about. So excited to have my parents who've been with me every step of the way as well. They have absolutely been my biggest supporters, and from now on, you don't have to hear what they did for a living. Just really want to thank them for the opportunities that they gave me. And I look at, I see so many volunteers, so many supporters, and even my staff, the team, I can tell you, I have the greatest supporters in the entire world. Thank you all so much. Also have the greatest team in the entire world. I told them I would never, ever, ever want to work against them. They put in the long hours. They never complained. They made me a better candidate, even when I didn't want to be. They stepped up in ways that I could never imagine any campaign team stepping up. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm personally enriched because of this experience. And I'll tell you a little moment on our RV tour. I got a little emotional when the tour was winding down, and I looked at them and I said, well, never mind. And they said, no, you got to say it now. I said, well, and I looked and I said, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do without y'all when this is over with. And I still feel that way today. I just want to thank you all for your refusal to settle for the status quo, for your refusal to settle for less, and your commitment to joining together to fight for better, to fight for more. And it's so appropriate to be here at the Sherman Phoenix because it's where we announced the campaign, July 2021. Hard to believe it was almost a year and a half ago to be set out on this journey. But I got in this race because I believe that the American dream, the same one that gave me the opportunity to stand here as your lieutenant governor, is a dream worth protecting and a dream worth fighting for. I believe that our working people, our family farmers, and our children's futures are absolutely worth fighting for. I got into this race because I believe in the Wisconsin promise of a fair shot at success, whether you're a dairy farmer in Monroe or a thrift store owner in Superior, or a kid born on 26 in Locust, right in the heart of the city of Milwaukee. And I believe in that promise more today than I've ever believed in it before. It's a promise that's brought so many people together all across this state to fight for something bigger than ourselves. Like I said, a lot of people counted us out more than once. I think about Marquette poll from 2-3 weeks ago, said we were down 6 points. A lot of people hadn't given up on us, but y'all never gave up. And you showed the progress that we can make when we build coalitions, when we reach across the aisle, when we reach across communities, and think about the things that unite us rather than the things that divide us. When we stand together and we say that we deserve better, and that together we'll fight for it and we'll get better. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get over the finish line this time. But I know that this movement has meant so much to all of us, where just because we didn't get across the finish line, that does not mean it's over. And I did have a chance to talk to Senator Johnson, and I told him the same thing that I've been saying all along. The same thing I've been saying to each and every one of you since the start of this campaign. Reminding him that every single person in this state deserves a chance to achieve their dreams. Whether that dream is being able to send your kid to a quality public school, knowing they'll be able to come home safely at the end of the day. Or having the funds and support to start that small business that you've been thinking about for years now. Or being able to pass your family farm to the next generation. And also told him that I would continue to help I would continue to work to help make this state into what I know it can be. That's because I still believe that better is possible. And I'm in this for Wisconsin, for everybody who calls this place home, for every person gathered here today, and for the community that raised me to the person I am. I'm in it for the people like my grandparents, a union steel worker, a school cafeteria worker who worked their entire lives to lay a foundation for me. Because my story should never be the exception. The story should be the rule. Everybody should have a fair shot at success. I'm in it for the auto workers in Racine who've been on strike for the last 6 months. Who are still standing shoulder to shoulder to fight for fair pay, for benefits, and for health care. Those folks are the reason why none of us can give up. I'm in this for my friends like John and Lauren and so many others like them who've worked their entire lives. And then to still see the benefits they've worked their entire lives for get put on the chopping block. I'm in this for our kids who should know that opportunity is within reach, regardless of where they were born. And they should know that they can do anything they put their minds to. And together we still have so much more to do, and I'll never stop working for Wisconsinites to make sure we get everything we deserve. And I know that you're all disappointed, and I'm disappointed too, because we all deserve better. But more than that, I'm determined. This is not the time for us to tune out. It's the time for us to double down. It's the time for us to show up like we've never shown up before. To make sure that Ron Johnson, every political leader, knows that they answer to every person in Wisconsin, not just the people that voted for them. And I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity, but more grateful to have been able to share it with every person here. Now, over the past year and a half, I had a chance to travel to every part of this state. It's been an honor of my life to hear the stories and have the important conversations about how we improve quality of life for every person across Wisconsin, regardless of where they were born, what language they speak, how they identify, or who they love. And whether or not we always saw eye to eye, I can tell you what it means that you at least gave me a chance. Because I do believe there's so much more that unites us than divides us, and all it takes is us reaching out and talking to each other to bridge that divide. Now, we knew this fight wasn't going to be easy. Hardly anything worth fighting for is easy. But I'm standing here today, ready to jump back in, ready to keep going. Because I know that we're still in this together, and that's all I've ever needed. And I know that when times get tough, it can be easy to check out, but we should consider it pure joy when we face trials of many kinds, because the testing of our faith produces perseverance. And together, we're going to continue to persevere. We're going to organize for better. We're going to fight for better. And one day soon, together, we will all achieve better. And I can honestly say that I fought the good fight. I've run my race. And I kept the faith. And I want to thank you for having faith in me. I want to thank you all so much for this opportunity. And let's all move forward together, everybody. Thank you so much.
Mandela Barnes officially conceding the race for the U.S. Senate, a race that wasn't called until a couple hours ago. Why did it take so long?
Right, exactly. And so we kind of essentially saw the writing on the wall last night too. Johnson was sizably ahead, especially going into kind of overnight last night. Well, we saw a lot of some of these like late turnout results came from what are called central count locations. So that's a city like Milwaukee, for example, where all the absentee ballots get counted in a central count location. Those generally take longer. So we see for some of these Democratic candidates, if they're operating at a deficit, they could catch up perhaps. But largely we're looking at just too big of a deficit for Barnes to overcome.
About 30,000 votes, 32,000?
I think it ended up something like that, yeah.
It doesn't sound like he's done with politics. He's only 35 years old.
Right, exactly. And we were conjecturing to what might be next for him. He came from a community organizing background. Throughout the campaign, he's talked about how the Obama DNC speech in 2004 was hugely inspirational for him. And so we kind of got a little bit of some of the rhetoric, I think, in that speech that we just heard. We have to kind of take the torch going forward. So we might see him do some kind of community organizing. I don't think we've seen the last of him, certainly.
Absolutely not. All right, well, thanks for the insight. We'll be right back. Stay with us.